Greetings people, 'tis I, 480 volts, and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy X. Today's gonna be less of a Let's Play video and more of a how-to tutorial video. We're back here at Remiem Temple about to do this Chocobo minigame. Our goal is to not only beat the other Chocobo, but also to open 5 chests while we do that. I spent many hours trying to get this challenge done, and I promise you that I did not scream, curse, cry, slam my head into the desk, or throw my controller out the window, no matter what any of my next door neighbors may tell you. But during that time, I did some research to see if I could find some tips and tricks and how to make this minigame a little bit easier, and it seems like this is a pretty popular subject in the Final Fantasy X fan base. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to beat this minigame. Most people are only interested in the trophy that you get at the end of it, but you know 480 doesn't care about trophies. I'm actually trying to get an in-game reward out of this that'll help me in the rest of the LP. But I did eventually beat the minigame, and while I certainly don't claim to be an expert or anything, I would like to share what little I know and try to give you a few pointers and tips. Most of this you should be able to find online though. And welcome to everybody who's not watching the main LP, who just chose this video to see the minigame. I deliberately titled it this way and chose certain tags that I did, expecting to draw in some viewers from the outside. Hope you'll stick around my channel and check out the rest of the LP, even though we're almost done at this point. So without further ado, let's show the winning take. This will show us the route, although that should be pretty obvious at this point. So at the upcoming fork in the road, you are going to want to take a right. And there's your first chest. That'll drop you down here. Take a right again, do a sharp U-turn, and hit this chest. And that's going to drop us down to the same spot, where we go right again, and we continue forward and hit that chest. And that drops us down here. Let's just keep going this way, hang right, hit that chest. Continue on. And now make a sharp U-turn right here, and another U-turn, and hit your 5th chest, and wait for what feels like an eternity for him to jump and land in front of the opposing Chocobo, and then we just make it to the end. So that's the route. Now let's talk about the opposing Chocobo. So as you can see, I finished that race in 39.1 seconds, which means that the other Chocobo must surely finish the race a few milliseconds later, right? Well, not always. You may be playing this minigame and you might notice that he finishes sooner than that. Sometimes he may finish at 37 seconds, sometimes 35.1, sometimes 33.3, and sometimes 29.4 seconds, just under 30. Well, clearly there's no way to beat him if he finishes in one of those earlier times, so what are you supposed to do? Just wait for the random number generators to suddenly shift in your favor? No, because as it turns out, the speed of the opposing Chocobo has nothing to do with the random number generator. I think everybody in 2024 is aware of this, but I will say it again. The amount of time it takes for the opposing Chocobo to finish this race does not depend on a random number generator. It is based on an algorithm that is influenced by your performance, specifically how long it takes for you to reach the first 2 chests. You want to reach the first chest no later than 6.7 seconds, and you want to reach the second chest no later than 13 seconds. If you are successful in doing both of these things, then the opposing Chocobo is always going to finish the race at exactly 39.6 seconds, which is just barely enough time for you to complete the objective and still win. If he finishes the race any earlier than that, you do not have a chance. If you do nothing, if you don't collect any chests at all, he finishes the race in 29.4 seconds. A good indicator to know if you're on the right track, see this jump right here in the second chest? If you see the opposing Chocobo at any point in time during that cutscene, you've already lost, because that is a Chocobo who is going to finish the race in less than 39 seconds. Alright, but making sure that the opponent finishes in 39.6 seconds isn't the only thing you need to consider in this race, and that brings us to our Chocobo. I don't know if this Chocobo just didn't get his daily dosage of Gisal greens, or if somebody else is trying to sabotage this race, because this is one of the worst Chocobos I've had the pleasure of riding since the Gold Saucer Racing minigames from Final Fantasy VII. You're on this narrow little path, and your Chocobo is determined to veer left and right and try to hug the sides as much as he can, and all that does is slow you down and shave off valuable milliseconds that you'll need. I can give you a few tips about this. So right here, while we're waiting for the race to begin, I recommend you tilt the analog stick to the right. And now tilt up. That should get you around that first little hurdle, and from here, it's just a matter of keeping him more or less centered, making tiny little micro adjustments with your thumb, most of which will feel natural. Now when it comes to this chest, I recommend letting go of the analog stick during this cutscene where he jumps. Because what's going to happen is when he lands, the camera's going to take a second to center itself, and if you're holding the control stick in a certain direction, you may accidentally go the wrong direction. So I recommend that through most of these jumps, just let go of the stick, and don't take control of it until you're certain the camera has finished settling itself. And while you're making tiny little micro adjustments to keep him straight, sometimes they just don't work. Sometimes you can just feel him fighting you, in which case you'll have to make a very intentional adjustment. But there you have to be careful that you don't go too far in the other direction. Also, try to hit these chests dead center, because if you hit them at an angle, what's going to happen is that your Chocobo is going to, during the cutscene, take a second to readjust himself, and that will also waste valuable milliseconds that you need. Now, during this last chest cutscene, I recommend holding the analog stick down and left, because when we land in front of this Chocobo, you'll be in position to cut him off from getting around you. So there's some tips about keeping the control stick tilted in certain directions. The rest of it is just gonna come with practice, I'm afraid. But let's watch the winning take one more time. And they're off! As you can see, he likes to go to the right. Oh, and might I remind you, I can't touch any poles during this time. Now, if you're doing this simply for a trophy, well then you don't have to worry about poles. You can touch as many poles as you like as long as you get the 5 chests. But if you're like me and you hate happiness and you're trying to get the in-game reward that comes with this, you can't afford to touch a single pole. And you will grow to hate these poles as I do. You don't know the frustration of having a near perfect run and then touching a pole at the last possible second. But if you did everything right, you should land in front of the Chocobo at this jump. If you don't land in front of him, you're not winning this race. And then it's just a matter of fighting him to the end. The reward for that? 63 stars, which I will use to customize 1 MP cost for both Tidus and Kimahri. Now, I realize that there's other ways of obtaining 3 stars, but I really do think that this minigame, as mentally and medically unhealthy for you as it is the most efficient way to get a bunch of 3 stars. Anyway, that's gonna do it for the Chocobo minigame. I did it, I conquered it, I beat it. I even have a trophy to show for it. Like I care about such things. Alright, well, like I said, this is part of a Let's Play series for those of you who are new to my channel, so I'm going to, instead of ending the video right here, I'm going to continue on with the main Let's Play. I just want to show a few more things that are unrelated to the Chocobo minigame before I continue on with our final objective. Alright, so here we are back at Mount Gagazet. Oh, there's some Ronso that are still alive, despite what Maester Seymour said, so that's nice. Many Ronso have fallen into hands of the unsent Seymours, the fate of Ronso to die in battle, but so few are left. That does suck. Ronso will guard the mountain to the very last. Well, that's good. Ronso, okay, that's all she says. And then that guy up there, he sells stuff for us, like weapons and stuff if you want to buy. But I got what I need for now, so I don't need to mess with them. But more importantly, it's my main man, Machin. What's up, guy?
Shall I tell you about the spear of days long past, eh?
I want you to tell me about the universe. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
There is a legend, you know.
You are a legend.
Just before the horrible sin appeared, a terrible war raged between Bavel and Zanarkand. When the armies of Bavel attacked Mount Gagazet, they heard a song echoing across the snowy slopes. 'Tis a song from an other world, they said. Soldiers panicked and ran. And then, as if to pursue the retreating armies, sin appeared. Some time later, scouts from Bavel braved the mountain. On the other side, they witnessed the ruins that had been Zanarkand. The city destroyed, not a single soul left standing, gone. In its place, a multitude of the faith had gathered on Gagazet. They were singing a song. It's the song we now call the Hymn of the Faith.
Interesting.
And that, as they say, is that. Well, maybe not all of it.
Is that all you got to say, or you got more for me?
Would you like to hear the rest?
Oh, there's rest? That's an option?
Rumors flew in Bevel about Sin's sudden appearance. They said that the people of Xanarkand became the faith that they had called Sin, and that the man responsible was none other than the summoner Yevon, ruler of Xanarkand. Yes, the Lord Father of Lady Yunalesca.
Oh, he was Yunalesca's dad.
Xanarkand's destruction, Lady Yunalesca had fled to safety with her husband Zeon. Later, the two used the final summoning to defeat Sin. Yet the people of Bevel still feared you, Yevon. It was to quell his wrath that they revered him and first spread his teachings. And so were born the temples of Yevon. I suppose it's possible Yunalesca had planned it that way from the start. A fair trade. She defeats Sin in exchange for her Lord Father's honor.
Or maybe not. Who knows?
There's no proof. No, the facts are lost in the mists of time.
He basically said that.
Who'd admit Yevon was an enemy of Bevel? You can bet the temples had a hand in covering that one up. That, as they say, is that.
I like how Machen is aware of the temple's corruption. What else you got to say, buddy?
Like to hear more, would you?
Yes.
Let me tell you about the Hymn of the Faith.
Please tell me.
It was once a Xanarkand song, sung in defiance of Bevel. Of course, the Yevon clergy of Bevel forbade it. Then, as these things often go, those who disliked Yevon began to sing it. The Al-Bed, for instance. The Hymn of the Faith became the symbol of defiance against Yevon. Yevon could do nothing but capitulate. They lifted the ban on the song and spread a new story. They said the hymn was a song sung to soothe the souls of the dead.
Try saying that
And
10
so
times
saying,
fast.
They took the song and made it scripture. That's why today the hymn is sung all over Spira. You could say that though Xanarkand is gone from this world, it lives on in the song. Ah, but look at the time. I've rambled on again. I do love stories, you see. Well, I owe you my gratitude for hearing this old scholar out.
Dude, the pleasure is mine. You ramble. Ramble to your heart's content, please.
Hear about this place once more?
But some other time, because I have actually got other things to do. Sorry.
Suit yourself.
That's all I wanted to do, was just show that. That's the last time we'll be talking to Machen in this game. Sniff, sniff, sad face. Alright, well now I'm going to take a moment to explain as much about the backstory as I can, because that's all we get to put it all together. But so here's what happened, to the best of my knowledge. So rewind about 1,000 years or so. You've got Xanarkand and Bevel, the two most powerful cities in Spira. They go to war for whatever reason. Bevel has advanced Machina. They win the war. They destroy most of Xanarkand. There's a summoner there by the name of Yevon. He can't bear to see his town destroyed and forgotten and left to the ruins of time. So he gathers the survivors and he transforms them using his summon powers into faith. Then he uses their energy as faith and a whole crap ton of pyroflies to manifest a dream image of his home city of Xanarkand. Because it's like he casts a spell on them, they go to sleep, and they dream about Xanarkand. He uses his summon powers and a whole bunch of pyroflies to manifest an actual city of Xanarkand. I have referenced a Star Trek episode from Deep Space Nine called Shadow Play. In it, Constable Odo and Lieutenant Dax, which if you don't know anything about the show, you don't know who they are, they go to a planet, they find a small civilization, and then it's a nice little town, but there are people that are slowly disappearing, and they can't figure out why. And then they soon find out that the whole town is just one giant holographic generation, and that the reason people are disappearing is because the holographic generator is slowly breaking down. And so then they do a repurge of the whole system, or basically a reset. And it turns out there's one guy in the entire village, he's the oldest member there, who is actually real. And he explains, yeah, he created it. His town was conquered by the Dominion a long time ago, so he fled to safety, and he created this holographic generated village replica of his own home village. So imagine it like that. The Faith are dreaming of Xanarkin. The Fireflies make the dream basically a reality. But Yu Yevon doesn't want anything to happen to Dream Xanarkin, so he wants to watch over it. So what he does is he uses his powers to summon a sort of organic armor around himself. He basically transforms into a guardian celestial being that is supposed to watch over Xanarkin, the Dream Xanarkin that is, and protect it from anybody who would destroy it. What he doesn't realize is that this entity ends up consuming his mind and soul, and he ends up just becoming a mindless, instinctual creature that basically destroys anything it wants to. His daughter, Unaleska, thinks, hey, something's got to be done to stop this thing, so she and her husband, Xeon, try to stop it. She transforms Xeon into a Faith, uses him to summon the most powerful Aeon she can. This kills her. No one's there to send her, but the final summoning does defeat the monster. But then the soul of Yu Yevon joins with the final Aeon anyway, and then eventually is reborn as the monster over a period of time. A few more summoners do this. I think the next one was Lord Gandalf. We've kind of been told about him. And eventually, the people of Bavel, and they're trying to rebuild after the war too, they eventually come up with the whole religion of Yevon. The monster is renamed Sin. The Blitzball Salute becomes the official prayer of Yevon. A popular song in Xanarkin becomes the Hymn of the Faith. And just a whole thing is born from this. And if you're wondering how Tidus and Jecht come into this, again, I will reference the episode from Star Trek. It's interesting. In that episode, they see a whole bunch of people that are holograms, and one of the people that they meet is a little girl. And she's the granddaughter of the old man who created the program. And they ask him, they're like, she's younger. Like, he says, like, his village was wiped out, like, 13 or 14 years prior. And the little girl's, like, 12. So they're like, how does she even exist? Like, she wasn't even around when you did this. And he explains, well, you know, he explains that, you know, one of the holograms he created was his daughter and the man that she was married to or would marry. And the program produced a kid from them based on the genetics provided in the hologram. So it's like it created what, you know, a child based on the two parents. You know, if they were real and had been allowed to have a kid, it may or may not have been this little girl. We don't know. Imagine the same thing with Tidus and Jecht and everybody else that was in his Xanarkin at the beginning of the game. It's like they're all based off of the memory. They all came from the memories of the ancestors long ago. It's a little hard to imagine it, but that episode helps me put it into perspective. But yeah, that's basically the lowdown of the backstory, or at least as well as I can interpret it. Anyway, that's all I want to do before taking on Sin itself. We've done everything else that I care about. So, beginning in the next video, we will take on Sin, and we will see if we can end this thing once and for all. If everything goes the way I want it to, it should be broken down into 3 parts, but that may change. We'll see. My name is 480 Volts. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Pieces!